Hello, good morning. This is 757 Spy. Thanks for joining me. It is very early in the morning, so talking a little bit differently because some people might still be asleep. It is first cup of coffee time here at the Spy Flight Deck, and this week we've been flying historic flights from the DC-6 era, basically the 1950s. Not a lot of waypoints and GPS locations. So one of the things that I've been doing here as we put the coffee away is I've been doing VOR to VOR flights. And that's been a little, the planning process of that is just a little bit different. So today we're actually switching airlines. From United, we are going to be flying for Pan Am today. And this is today's flights that we're going to do on the Spy Flight a little bit later on from 1953. And we're going to be flying Pan Am Flight 185 and Pan Am Flight 1. So Vienna to Frankfurt and Frankfurt to London. And that's kind of how it is that we're going to do this. So let's jump right in. What's the flight planning process? Well, now that I've figured out my departure point and my arrival point, the first thing that I'm going to do is, well, I also went over to the Airline Timetable Changes website, and that's how I got those flight numbers. But really the first thing that we're going to do and start off with is something called SkyVector. Let's make this full screen for you right now. SkyVector is a great tool. So we're going to start by putting in the departure point in SkyVector. And by the way, I put all the links, the web links, they're down in the description. So we are departing Vienna, LOWW, and there is Vienna Airport, and that's centered in the map now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Frankfurt, EDDF. Okay, so now it's gone and zoomed our map in a little bit and added a pink line. So our flight today is 336 nautical miles. I'm going to actually put a note over here, and it's going to maybe be a little hard to see. Let me make this a little bit smaller like that, so we go over there. These are my flight notes here. This is a text file that I do for almost every flight, especially a flight on VATSIM. This is where I keep all sorts of information. And if you fly along with me, I have this over on the Spy Flight Discord channel. And I update it every day. So you can download this text file and you can carve it up any way you want to make it so that it works really well for you. But I'd like to note that it is 335 nautical miles. So we're going to go in and I'm going to do 335. So that's the first step in that process. Okay, we're going to get rid of that for a second. Let's make this full screen again. And now let's go to the departure point. Okay, so that's right here out of Vienna. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to look for a couple of VORs. Well, we've got two around Vienna. Look at this. We've got STO and SNU. Which one? Should we go to the north one or to the south one after we take off from Vienna? Well, you know, another thing that we could do is we can go over here to FlightAware and let's see what the real world is doing. So LOWW into FlightAware. And there is Vienna Airport. And let's see what's happening at the real world of Vienna. This is a great way if you're planning ahead as far in advance as I am. And it looks like Vienna is taking off to the west. So let's go over here and let's grab some charts. So one of the things is this is Sim Toolkit Pro. And boy, I use Sim Toolkit Pro for all sorts of good stuff here. So just to keep it simpler on the screen, here's Sim Toolkit Pro. And today we're in Europe, so I'm going to be using the NDP charts. And I've already downloaded the flight maps. And it looks like they're taking off on runway 29. So it looks like we're taking off to the west, probably runway 29 for the departure here. So as we go back over to SkyVector, let's make this full screen again. I think probably the best VOR for our departure here is going to be STO. So I'm going to just put in STO right there, and that's going to be our first VOR. As we kind of look around here, there's a couple of restricted airspaces, it looks like here. Here's something here, RDG. There's a good looking VOR. Let's go ahead and go to RDG. Let's grab that one. And that kind of keeps us clear of that airspace. Let's kind of keep moving here. Here's another one, WUR. WUR. And as you can see, I'm just sort of pacing my way up. I want my VOR stations to be basically about anywhere from 50 to 100 miles apart. And then we've got FFM, so Frankfurt, and there's our flight plan. There they are. That's going to be our route. and it looks like everything's going to be just fine. Our total route is not so bad, 336. So we've got a basic route. Now our speed, I'm basically getting about 210 to 220. So how about 220 is what we're going to probably do as far as our speed. As far as altitude, I'm going to click the World VFR chart here. All right, we got some mountains over here. Everything else is kind of like green little valleys. Let's zoom in. All right, well, there's 5,000 feet. There's 4,000 feet. You know, the DC-6 usually likes to fly right around, oh, I don't know, 12,000 feet. We are basically in the world, and we are heading westbound. So even altitudes, how about 12,000 feet? So 120. Got to have 0. There we go. All right, so that's 12,000. That seems to be a good altitude for this airplane right now. Now, one of the things that I always like to say when I'm doing these videos here is this isn't the right way or the wrong way. What I'm doing on this YouTube video today is show you how I do it and what works for me. That's all that I'm doing here today. So, okay, this looks pretty good. There's big airport right here. There's Nuremberg Airport there. I don't see any big airports that we got to watch out for. I think we're in good shape. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the navlog button. And the navlog button is going to give me magnetic headings. It's going to give me distances between everything, between the radio stations. It's going to give me the VOR radio stations, and it's going to give me their frequencies. Wow, this is a little something I think I want to keep here. So I'm going to go and hit the save button on this one, and I'm going to save a copy of this to my desktop. We usually do 2 flights at least on the spy flights, so I'm going to call this navlog-01 and then save that to my desktop. Okay, so we're good to go there. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Everything else looks good here, and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste, Control-C, copy those radio stations call letters, and I'm going to go right over here to my chart. And so for LOWW and EDDF, I'm going to just paste that in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and probably just, there's an extra space in here just to save space in my flight notes, and all that's good. Oh, I'm also going to note that we're going to go at flight level 120. All right, so there is Pan Am Flight 185, but we're not done yet. So that's nicely done there. I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little bit smaller here. And let's go ahead and minimize this, because now we've got to go and put this into a form so that we can fly on VATSIM. And just a few other things that I like to do, which is get us a nice flight plan. So here is Sim Toolkit Pro. Let's go ahead and hit the flight planner. And let's go and create a new flight plan. We are departing LOWW. Lots of paperwork, isn't it, for this? But hey, that's kind of the thing about flying. You do some paperwork, right? EDDF, there is Frankfurt Airport. Which airplane? We're flying the DC-6. And we're going to fly the Pan Am DC-6 today, so all that's good. Let's give it a flight number. The flight number is going to be Pan Am Flight 185. Let's give it a call sign, 185, and I mixed those up. Let's also go here, and my departure time for the spy flight is 1935 Zulu. Okay, so that takes care of the left side of the screen. The right side of the screen, do you remember the the radio stations, the VOR radio stations? Let's paste that in there. STO, RDG, WUR, and FFM. This is the specific routing that we want SimBrief and Sim Toolkit Pro to follow. And then the last thing I'm going to do is turn off SIDS, and I'm going to turn off stars. And there we go. We're in pretty good shape. Let's hit generate a flight plan. So Sim Toolkit Pro is going to fire up SimBrief, and that's over here on this other window. So there's our SimBrief flight plan. That goes in there. And oh my gosh, there's our flight plan that's now appearing in Sim Toolkit Pro via SimBrief. So the next thing I'm going to do is export the OPF, Operational Flight Plan. And there it is. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to save a copy of this to my desktop too, because that's a good thing to have. Those two things are really good things to have there. Okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and look at this information. And while we do that, let's minimize that. There's the PDF file. And let's start to go through the pages. Okay, this is our weather page. It looks like, well, it could be there's some thunderstorms over here way, way west of Frankfurt. That may impact the second flight when we go to London Heathrow. And you know the really cool departure boards that I make? Well, let's go ahead and just snap the weather picture right now. So we're going to go ahead and use Snip and Sketch. And I'm going to go over here and just grab that map. And I'm going to go and save this one over to a spot on my desktop. And that's good for the little departure boards that we do a little bit later on. Okay, so let's keep going down. And there is all sorts of flight plan information. This flight is going to take us 1 hour and 41 minutes. The total distance on this flight plan is 360. That's relatively close to the 335. We're going to go to flight level 120. Our takeoff weight is going to be 79,310 pounds. That's something that we're going to put into the airplane. And then we're going to go 7,562 pounds of fuel. And there you go. These are the little pieces of information that I'm going to just go and put into the flight plan here. Our flight schedule, I can go over here and I can highlight the flight schedule and put this into my notes. So I've got departure and arrival times. That's kind of important when you're going to be doing one of those really big VATSIM events. Your departure and arrival time, like cross the pond, I mean, you are expected to depart at, well, almost exactly on time. So I'll just spread these out a little bit so that they're in nice, neat columns. Believe me, when you're in a flight, a big flight event, if you take the extra time to make this thing a little bit neater like this, it really does make a difference. And then the other thing is from other parts of the flight plan. So this is going to be a 1 hour and 41 minute flight, 360 miles. So I'm going to put that in, all of that in. And then the last thing that I'll go and do is at this early stage of the game, let's just go ahead and do LOWW weather. Here is our departure weather for Vienna. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab that little METAR, and I'm going to pop that in there too, just so I can start getting a handle on the METAR. The next thing that I'm going to do is plug this into a series of text files, which makes some of the really nice graphics that we do. This is one of the graphics we use today for this historic flight. Some of the other graphics that I use, this is the old one from yesterday, and I will start putting in all sorts of information there for that particular text file. And that is how I do VOR to VOR flying. It really is a simple way to go. You can dive down some bigger rabbit holes on this if you would like to. I think that this is a great way to get started. And then as time goes by, you can start doing things more and more correctly. The web links for the 2 websites that I went to, actually there's 3 web links down there that you might find helpful with your own VOR to VOR flight planning. Oh, and by the way, the Sim Toolkit Pro and SimBrief, those are free. My charts, the NDP Lido charts, those are from Aerosoft, and that's a subscription service. And there you go. That's what it is that I do. VOR to VOR flight planning. It's actually, you know, if you're a pilot airplane geek, it's actually kind of fun. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, I'm still very new on YouTube. I read all the comments and questions and respond to them. If you liked what you saw and like hanging out with people who like airplanes, I hope you'll come over to the Spy Flight on Twitch. It's 757SPY. This is a brand new YouTube channel, so it's not monetized. If you liked what you saw and you wanted to support me in any way, come on over to Twitch where you can do a subscription or a donation. That's what I've got that piece of that graphic up there to say a very big thank you to the subscribers, the people who do the gifting, and the people who do the donations. You're the ones that are making my Spy Flight possible. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. See you on the Spy Flight at 1900 Zulu, Tuesday through Sunday. Cheers.